All right, guys, thank you for that carrier update. We'll have one more before we are done here for the day. Right now, we're going to welcome back to our airwaves after a full month of vacation, our editor-at-large, John Kingston. John, thank you for joining us. We're glad to have you back. But first things first, how was your sabbatical? Did you enjoy your time off?
Well, I did, and it really helped that the weather gods decided to grant us a drought here in the Northeast. So rain didn't screw up a single day of golf. Rain didn't screw up a single day of me on the bike. So that was really one of the great things about it. I just did not deal with any precipitation.
Awesome. So you got your swing back. How'd you shoot him, man? Did you break par? Or what? In the spring I was so awful I was embarrassed, and I'm a little better now. So Okay.
We'll see.
Okay.
Maybe I should take a sabbatical and work on my golf game too, because mine's terrible.
That's right. Golf's one of those games where you hit one good shot and you're back for the next one, man.
Oh, you are.
Yeah, you definitely are. So, you were off riding bikes and playing golf and stuff like that. Where the rest of us in trucking and transportation, we're riding this diesel roller coaster, this fuel roller coaster. What's going on? We're seeing some easing coming on right now. Why the easing, and what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I do want to say that I was tracking the diesel market pretty much every day while I was away.
I don't doubt that. I
keep this gigantic spreadsheet of prices, and if you don't keep it up, it becomes worthless. I'll tell you that I'm a little surprised at the depth of the drop, because remember, there's kind of two drops. One is the overall decline in oil, and the other is the relative strength of diesel to crude. Those would not. The strength of diesel relative to crude was at levels in June we'd never seen before. So I guess there was a need to kind of return to the norm, and we're getting back down that. But I'm going to go to the comments of an executive VP at Phillips, whose name is escaping me right now, on their earnings call. Phillips is really pretty much one of the leading diesel producers in the country. And he said, yes, the price is down, but, Phillips as a refiner, they benefit from the strength of diesel. And what he said is that when you look at the overall diesel market, it's still tight. Inventories are well below historic averages for this time of year. You haven't yet got into harvest season. Harvest season is a very big deal in diesel for obvious reasons, because you use diesel to run the tractors. We've got winter just a few months away. We still have issues in Europe about Russian gas supplies. And the reality is, when gas is not available, the use of the consumption of that gas that needs an alternative generally turns to diesel. So it's been a nice ride, certainly for drivers, to see these prices drop. But I don't know that there's been this massive fundamental shift in diesel enough to anybody take a really deep breath right now. It's already August. Winter is looming, and we're going into winter still with very tight inventories, and that's a concern.
And it's been just kind of this slow roll down of prices. At least what I've noticed anecdotally at the pump is that you see kind of a cent here on one day, 2 or 3 cents here, which you would think is okay. It's slowly coming down, but it's almost kind of producing this almost false sense of security, I would think, as you mentioned, going into winter. Do you think that we're going to see now a rebound back up in those higher prices once we hit that more usage time? Or are drivers and companies now starting to insulate themselves with some protection of if those prices do spike again?
Well, let me just talk about the price the declines. The DOE number, which of course is the basis for fuel surcharges, was down 16 cents 2 weeks ago. So, that's really more than 2 cents a day. And last week it was down 13 cents, which is, more than a cent a day. Retail prices were very slow to react to the drop in futures prices and wholesale prices. We've got the fuels.usa data series and Sonar. That was at numbers that were just unheard of. Recently, they're starting to come down, and the drop in retail prices at the DOE register last week of 13 cents came even as futures prices went up about 12 cents. And wholesale prices will track futures prices pretty closely. So I don't know what the exact number on wholesale prices, but figure they were up roughly 12 cents too. So a lot of the decline is really catching up from inflated retail numbers relative to wholesale that has resulted in really tremendous margins for retailers. You saw that yesterday when the Travel Centers of America earnings came out, and they said that their average fuel margin in the second quarter was 27 cents. Mind you, most of the time it's like 14 cents. It was 20 cents in the first quarter. It was 27 cents in the second quarter. These are like crazy numbers. So retailers have been doing very well, and I think kind of they're catching up the declines. Now, Kaylee, as far as the first part of your question, which you asked so long ago, that now I'm not totally remembering it, which I think is, our drivers getting a little complacent about the declines. I don't know that anybody, after they've gone through what we've been through the past year or so, past 6 months, will be complacent about anything. But again, I do want to go back to the words of the Phillips executive who says, we're still dealing with a market that is structurally tight. And we're going into the winter, which is obviously a key season for distillate more than gas. Gasoline tends to be thought of as a summer fuel because you do a lot of driving for vacation, and distillate, because it's a heating fuel in many locales, is very much a winter fuel. So I wouldn't take any deep breath yet. Russia remains a big wild card, particularly if they do significant cutoffs of gas to Europe and the Europeans turn to diesel as a replacement. That's something to worry about.
Yeah, it's interesting, John, because we got so many different things that are at play here. We have the initial disruption of the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, right, and the disruption of the movement of oil, which then kind of changes, right, because all of it's interlinked. So it changes where they're shipping that oil to, and then that has to change, and so things change. But inventories levels, like you said, are still at some of the lowest levels ever, but yet we're seeing prices come down, and the prices in the futures are driven by sentiment and outlook by and large. And so you pointed out some very, very sound reasons to be concerned about the future prices of oil. Why are they down then? What is this positive news that people are looking to that are suppressing the futures prices at this particular moment in time?
Well, there are a couple of things. First of all, remember that the price of oil is priced in dollars. So when you get a really strong dollar, that puts downward pressure on the price of oil. It puts downward pressure on the price of any commodities that are traded globally on a dollar basis. So we've had an incredibly strong dollar. That's been a factor too. I think also, and Michael, you kind of made reference to it, that the news suggests that the Russian oil is getting out.
Yeah,
that
it does.
Not that we've lost all of it, but that the idea, that the IEA predicted, we were going to lose 3 million barrels a day of Russian oil, and that's not looking likely right now. On that Phillips call, they said that they thought that Russian diesel supplies were down about 150,000 barrels a day. That's not an insignificant amount, but that's not a massive amount either. So I think that part of it is the fact that the supply crisis that we did get a supply crisis. We're still in the middle of it. I don't want to downplay it, but that it might not be quite as bad as we thought, because Russia is managing to find buyers. They're not necessarily the buyers that they had in the past, and the world may be trying to cut it off, but Russia is finding an exit for more of its oil than we thought. So I think that has a lot to do with the downward pressure on prices.
Yeah. John, really quickly, I want to change gears pretty quick, because before you went on your sabbatical, of course, we dropped the news about AB5 and the Supreme Court deciding to not hear the case, immediately went into place. And since then, we've had some major developments across California, from protests now to lawsuits like Clarissa Hawes was talking about earlier today. Yeah. Can you give us some of your thoughts on how kind of the ripple effects from the AB5 law going into place have played out, and what do you see as continuing ripple effects down the road?
Well, one thing I did do on sabbatical, I did do some work, and I wrote a couple of stories about AB5 and getting ready for AB5. I think right now the company that's been out there the most prominent is Transforce, and they've got what they call a two-check solution. We should probably hold that off for another segment, because it's a little more complicated than we could talk about in the time we've got left. I'm going to have another story on it today. I wrote a story on it last week, and I think the key thing here is that, one thing you can never underestimate, or you should not underestimate, is the creativity of businesses to deal with a legal problem. And, it may be that some really bright minds are looking to come up with solutions now. Now, are these solutions legal? Well, obviously they think that they're legal, because otherwise they wouldn't roll them out. Are they going to be determined to be legal? You really have to have the state take some actions against some companies on AB5 to create a body of law to really over time know what's legal and what's not. So, but like I said, you've got some smart people who are working on ways of dealing with this. The two-check system is something I'd never heard of, but it's been used elsewhere over the years. I mean, I found references to it being used, years ago in other businesses. So I would just say, keep your eye on the creativity of the legal network that advises trucking companies. And when I say creativity, I do mean that as a positive thing. That could be viewed as being sort of sarcastic, but I'm not. There may be solutions to this. So, but this is going to play out. We could be talking about this in 2 or 3 years too, as actions are taken by the state and a determination is made whether a system is legal or not.
Right. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. John, hey, welcome back, my friend. I've got more questions about scrubbers and IMO 2020 and ultra sulfur, low sulfur diesel, et cetera. But we got to move on to headlines. Huh?
I'm going to be in Chattanooga in 3 weeks. Maybe you can have me on.
Perfect. We'll do it. We'll do it then. So get ready for that. That's excellent stuff. Thank you so much, John. Wonderful to have you back, my friend. Have a great day.
Thanks.